The great lecture hall of the Galactic Academy was silent. Hundreds of students, from dozens of star systems, sat in curved rows of silver seats. Soft light from the glass ceiling fell across the room like pale starlight. The center of the hall stood Professor Telrian, a respected historian of the Interstellar Council. Behind him, a massive holographic display slowly formed in the air ruins. Appeared broken towers, collapsed cities, dry oceans of dust. The professor raised one thin hand today. "We study a lost world," he said, "a world that once held one of the most influential civilizations in galactic history." The hologram shifted day. Blue planet appeared, rotating slowly in space. This planet was called Earth. It was the birthplace of humanity. Quiet murmur moved through the alien students' humanity. The professor continued, was one of the earliest species to leave their home system. They built engines that crossed light years. They explored worlds that no one else dared to reach. The hologram zoomed closer now. The planet looked old and scarred. Huge regions were dry. The once blue oceans looked darker, but Earth did not survive, he said. The image changed again, ruined. Cities appeared across the display, gigantic buildings broken like ancient bones, highways buried beneath sand forests, growing through empty snow. One truly knows what ended the human homeworld, the professor said. The records are incomplete. Some say war, some say environmental collapse, some say an unknown cosmic disaster, but the result was the same. Humanity left their cradle behind the hologram, focused on a single ruined city. The remains of towers stretched across the horizon, moved through empty streets where millions once lived. Archaeologists believe this city once held over 20 million humans. The hall remained quiet. Among the students sat a young human boy named Adrian. Compared to the larger alien students, he looked small and quiet. He watched the ruins without moving. Professor Telrian continued, this image was taken 300 years ago during the last official expedition. No living humans remained on the planet, only ruins, only silence. The professor slowly walked across the stage. Lost worlds are important lessons, he said. Civilizations grow powerful, but power does not protect them from their own mistakes. He turned back to the class. Earth is one of the greatest warnings in history. At that moment a quiet voice spoke. I was there. The words were calm. The entire hall froze. Professor Telrian slowly turned. Voice came from Adrian. The human boy sat quietly in the middle. Rows of students laughed, thinking it was a joke. The professor looked at him carefully. Human, he said. These ruins are over 10,000 years old. Adrian stood slowly. I know, he said. The room grew even quieter. Professor Telrian narrowed his eyes, explained. Adrian walked down the steps toward the front of the hologram. I followed him. When he reached the hologram, he stopped. He looked up at the broken city floating in the air. I remember this place, he said softly. The professor crossed his arms. Possible. Adrian pointed toward one of the tallest ruined towers in the hologram. The tower opened during the summer festival, he said. The whole city celebrated. Lights covered the skyline for 3 nights. The laughter in the room slowly faded. Adrian continued quietly. There was a park 2 streets away. Children used to fly small drones there. The professor stared at him. You speak like someone who lived there. Adrian nodded. I did. The hall was completely silent. Now a reptilian student finally spoke. That world died 10,000 years ago. Adrian looked at him calmly. Esther. Professor stepped closer. Then how could you possibly remember? If Adrian took a slow breath. Long ago humanity feared losing its history, he said. So they created long observers, people placed into deep time programs, cryogenic cycles, memory preservation, century-long sleep intervals. Observers would wake periodically and record changes in civilization. The professor whispered. Witnesses Adrian, Noddy Die, was one of them. Gasps spread across the room. Matt, first my mission was simple, he said. Wake every few hundred years, record progress. Then sleep again. Humanity was advancing quickly. Cities grew larger, technology became stronger. Colonies spread across the stars, looked unstoppable. But slowly the problems appeared. Climate systems, failed resources, disappeared. Nations fought over the last stable regions. The hologram shifted, showing the ruined skyline again. Adrian looked at it quietly. I woke many times during those centuries. Each time, the world looked a little worse. Storms, stronger oceans rising, cities struggling. Then came the final evacuation. Huge fleets filled the sky. Billions of humans left Earth in massive colony. Ships most believed they would return after repairs, but the planet was already too damaged. The professor listened in silence. Adrian continued. My program forced me to remain. Had to witness the end. The last ships left orbit. The sky became empty. For the first time in human history, Earth had no people. The students leaned forward. For many years, the cities remained untouched. Twined, moved through empty streets. Plants broke through the road. Storms shattered glass towers. Then the long silence began. Past entire cities collapsed. Forests covered the highways. Oceans changed color. Adrian looked back at the professor. When my program woke me, Earth had already become this. He gestured toward the hologram of ruins. Exactly this, the professor spoke quietly. But how are you alive? Adrian answered. My final wake cycle activated. An old emergency beacon. A human exploration ship detected it near the outer colonies. They recovered my capsule, but by then thousands of years had passed. Human civilization had changed completely. Most people believed Earth was only a myth. Adrian looked again at the broken skyline. But I remember it. The professor slowly approached the hologram. His voice was almost a whisper. You walked those streets, Adrian, not a jest. He pointed to the ruins again. That avenue once held music every night. Food stands filled the sidewalks. People laughed. There the professor lowered his head with deep respect. Around the hall, alien students sat in stunned silence. History had always felt data, old ruins, forgotten civilizations. But now a living witness stood in front of Thema, person who had actually seen the world before it. Adrian looked at the stars through the glass ceiling. Humanity left Earth behind, he said quietly, but we carried its memory into the stars. He looked back at the hologram one last time. As long as even one human remembers, Earth is never truly gone. Ruins floated silently in the air, but now they were not just ruins. They were the last memories of a world that once held an entire civilization. And standing quietly in the center of the classroom was the boy who had seen it all before time turned it to dust. Asterisk.